Barber College Success, brought to you by Craig Charles of Crown Cutz Academy JC, Crown Cutz Academy Bristol, and Craig's Crown Cutz Downtown JC. Spreading love the JC way, but the only way how to spread love is the Crown Cutz way. Today we're gonna get it. We have a big topic, a major topic. But before we get into the topic, again, shout out to my sponsor, Colossal Brand, and shout out to FeedSpot for giving us the top 25 ranking in the country, in the world. So far, our podcast is reaching close to 70 countries around the world. And just thank you for the support that we've gotten, all the questions that we get weekly. We have a great show up for you today. We have great shows coming up in the future. But I just want to thank you again. Thank you. And I'm letting my co-host, he's over there popping and locking.
I was listening. I'm ready to work, man. Thank God I got some break. I got to go to a hair show. I got to go to the beach, and I'm rejuvenated. I'm 100%, man. I'm ready to go.
Did a podcast from the beach.
Did a podcast. That was, I feel like, I wish I was here for that one because I was so excited to do that one because of the hair show.
But it was still dope.
It was awesome. I'm glad to hear everybody's
It
perspective.
was impactful.
I think so. Yeah, for sure. So, am I Fields? Am I your barber?
From where?
Marion, Virginia.
In what shop?
By the Blade Barbershop.
Okay,
downtown Marion.
Yes, sir. People don't know where Marion is. Tell people where Marion is.
Marion is,
because we are in Johnson City, Tennessee, but most people don't know where Marion is.
Yeah, I mean it's a hike. I ain't gonna lie, man. It's starting to grow. It's about 45 minutes to an hour from here, depending on how fast you drive, or these treacherous Tennessee roads.
but you have people thinking it's in Tennessee, but it's not.
Oh, people think that for real?
Yeah, you just said Marion.
Okay, it's in Virginia. Yeah, so I'm driving from Virginia. It's a nice town. They have a park there, Huntington Park. Have festivals. It's quaint. It's like a mini Asheville.
For those who don't know, Virginia and Tennessee borders each other. So just give me a shout out to the people who don't know.
Little geography lesson.
Oh yeah, I mean we have people from China, we have people from Australia.
Oh, I guess you're right. Yeah.
We have people from Switzerland, from Africa and the Caribbean, all through the United States, and they need to learn about East Tennessee.
We got to show them our piece of the world.
Hey, yes, sir. And introduce yourself.
Lanisa, currently with Guaranteed Rate. I'm a mortgage loan originator. Have been for 21 years. A long time.
That's years of in the industry like us. When you love your industry, you love your craft, hey, the years just go by.
I'm Bobby. I've been barbering for 10 years.
You've been barbering longer than that, man. Or when you start taking it serious?
About 10 years ago, 2010.
So when did you get your license?
2009.
Oh, yeah. But you've been barbering before that, right?
All my life, really.
Oh, yeah. So it's more than 10 years. You got to don't shortchange with your credentials, man. You know what I mean?
With my license for about 10 years.
But before that, how long was you cutting?
All my life. I started about 9, 10 years old.
Whew, that's a lot of knowledge.
9 and 10?
He started cutting off little girls' pigtails.
That's crazy. you was a kid they pulled to the shop and they was like, yeah, he tried to cut his own hair.
Yeah.
He fixed it. Yeah,
that's me.
Hey,
man, that's a long
That's part of it. That's okay. I mean, we have years of experience in our industry, whatever industry we're in. But today we have a special topic. We're going to talk about the cost of the tuition of barbering, cosmetology schools, wherever it is, nails, aesthetics. But we're going to focus. The show is called Barber College Success. We're going to talk about what do you get for your tuition? What do you get for your investment on the return when you pay for school? Because there's a misconception that people don't understand. They go to school and a lot of times you hear, oh, I'm not learning stuff. I'm not learning nothing. I'm not picking it up. And we need to twist that narrative and let people understand. Let students know what they're getting into, what they're learning. So I'll throw the first question to you, Lanisa. When you hear something like that, what comes to mind?
The first thing that comes to mind is it takes more than one time and one way to hear something sometimes in order for you to learn. I know in another instructor will say it in a way that does, or maybe
someone you're learning
back,
with.
Yeah, one of my fellow students may say it in a way, and I'm like, oh, now I get it, or it may just be that it takes you a couple of times to even hear it the same way to repeat. So, saying, well, I'm not going to learn anything because I'm just going to hear it once and move on, or I don't get it.
And typically you get that in the first like 2 weeks to a month to 6 weeks of barbering. First time you touch clippers and even thinking about the sanitation or getting to know your classmates or getting a gist of just having that engine turning inside of you where you want to be a barber and you thinking you're gonna pick it up in like 6 weeks, 4 weeks. What comes to mind when you hear that, Bobby?
You just got to get your experience, get your reps in. I cut my hair bald a lot of times, messing up. You know,
And it was interesting because one of the students said to me last week, it kind of made me smile. Kevin is a great communicator. He is, but when he first came, he wasn't getting the skill like he wanted to.
Kevin, that was on the podcast
Kevin was
last.
on the podcast.
Yeah, he articulates himself pretty well.
Really well.
Yeah.
And he said, I didn't realize what I have picked up or what I have gained in school until I went to the hair show, the continuing education courses. And I'm like, so what that said to me is that we have to continuously pushing students to go out there and go to those continuing education courses and go to those hair shows.
Bristol hair show. I just thought about that.
Yep.
Sorry.
Hey man, they call it Bristol,
Put
baby.
it in the air, whatever you want to call it.
Bristol, baby.
Yeah.
It's gonna be November 13th.
It's Bristol, baby.
So we're gonna talk about what do you get when you go to school? What do you get on your return? But before we get to the MI, what do you think of when you hear the comments from Lanisa and Bobby?
I think they're both right. Getting feedback from all different people, instructors, people you work with, even clients, really perpetuates yourself to make you know and learn what people want and what they need and what you need to know. And then at the same time, you gotta make mistakes. Like you said, he made a bunch of mistakes. That's what it's all about. You're in school, make mistakes. Like, don't feel bad about mistakes. You're going to feel bad. I'm gonna tell you not to feel bad, and you're still going to feel bad. But I'm telling you, don't feel like you should feel bad. I still feel bad. So I called Craig the other day. I felt bad. I gave the worst. I've been cutting, not nearly as long as Bobby has, but I made a mistake, man. It was so cringy. I couldn't leave the shop till I called somebody. I was like, I gotta call Craig, man.
But that's part of it, Bobby. People think that once you get into the industry, you're not gonna have a cut. Be like, man, you don't feel bad about the cut.
mm-hmm. Or doing cuts you don't know how to do. If you're a master barber, you find a way to get it done.
Right. Lanisa, hearing these two gentlemen talk, what comes to your mind? I know you're not a barber, but you get your hair done, but you're in the service industry as well.
Right. I think listening to clients, listening to other people, I learn a lot that way. Listening to other people in my industry. I work in an office by myself right now, so I take advantage of any of the conference calls about new products, things like that keep me current, that keep me involved, keep me motivated, moving in the right direction.
It's funny how you speak without even having a perception of being in a school or a barbershop. A couple of things that you've said that resonates that we know about is like talking about continuing education, talking about learning from our peers, talking about every opportunity you get a chance to grab something and learn from it. Those are the same things that Bobby and Emma and myself, when we hear you talk, we like, you sound like you're a barber already.
I know. Did you brief her? She already get brief.
It wasn't no briefing. It's just good to have someone on a different perspective for them to understand, because learning is really, there's a blueprint for it, but we can all learn in different ways to accomplish one goal. And a lot of times is a derivative of the same way to learn. You have to be able to receive the information. You have to be receptive to receive the information. And
Coachable.
You have to be coachable. Once you receive the information, then you retain it. And after you retain the information, you can apply it. But if those three things don't go in hand, nothing gets accomplished. A lot of people are thinking that, and I've heard Barbie, you're the first person who I've heard say it. Your return on your investment
is infinite.
And what you paying for, you can get that back in
tuition.
Yeah.
You can get how long? About 6 months.
Talk about that. You elaborated the conversation a whole lot more when we were in the shop. And I'm like, that makes, and I've heard you say that for a long time. And I've taken pieces of that to let students know.
Well, I look at it financially. You know, if you go to school to be a doctor, a lawyer, it's going to cost so much, and you can get so much student loan built up to where you can pay to get a trade, the barber trade.
Hmm.
And I had made my tuition money back the first 6 months I was out of barber school, so I've had an infinite return on my investment.
Right. And most people don't understand that because their thought process is, man, this is too much. Why am I paying for this? But you're paying for a skill that everybody can't do.
I just think I just listen to him say that in the long term, you're pretty much getting paid to go get money. Like it's just a sacrifice of time. It's really not a financial sacrifice at all. It's just a sacrifice of your time and
Investment of your time, that's sacrifice.
excuse me. That's right. We can't use the S word in here. No S words. You invest yourself. It's an investment of your time to plant future seeds. And then I firmly believe that if you can cut hair, then you have a job anywhere on the planet because they grow hair everywhere.
Right.
So.
What do you think, Lenisa?
No, I mean, return on investment's definitely what it's all about. And it's whether you choose, you have to view it in a way that you would then apply. You know, you have to be mentally and emotionally invested in it and not just go in there and sit there and go, okay, I just have to get through this. You know, get in there and make the most of it. Take every advantage you can.
Because the industry that we're in, molding your hands and making something work, when the passion comes out, that's something that you're going to have for a lifetime. And a lot of people don't understand that because a lot of people always downplay our industry. Oh, you're just a barber. You're just a hairstylist. Oh, you just this. You just that. And I understand that during the pandemic, we were one of the people who was working the hardest, besides the nurses and the EMS and those type of guys. But those guys was coming to us for them to do their job effectively. All the politicians.
It's like barber prohibition. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, they were coming to us for us to service them to do their job effectively. And I had a parent come to school to enroll his daughter last week, and he looked at the tuition. He said, "Gosh, this is a lot." And I said the same thing you said numerous times. The return on your investment is infinite. How many jobs you'll be able to finish your tuition payment by the end of your term and get that back? Go ahead, Lenisa. Why you shake? Why you shake?
Very few. Very few. I mean, I'm from a person who reviews people's credit reports on a daily basis. I see so many people who have, I mean, tens of thousands of dollars worth of student loans, and I see what their income is. And sometimes it just breaks my heart. And I wish I could say, being rude, you know, I'm so sorry.
It's
I'm
crippling.
so sorry that somebody didn't educate you in a different way of doing this. You know, just if they didn't even have any other debt, some of them it would take them 5 to 10 years to pay off their student loans if they had no other expenses.
Right.
They're in such debt for such a small.
And that's why I like bringing people in from a totally different perspective, because that's a great point. Because essentially, we all need shelter. We all need food. Those things are essential in our lives. And the essential part of just having a start to purchase your own home and not having no extra student debt. I didn't think about it on that level.
It's the American dream too. Everybody, that's that's what you want. You want to have a home.
I didn't think about it before I even started the podcast. I was thinking about the topic. I didn't think of it on that level, Anissa, but that's so important because those skills right there, where you finish with your discipline as far as the schooling, and you struggle to make the payments, but you paid it. You're free. All you in the black right now. You in the positive. Everything is on the up.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So for parents out there and people who are thinking about changing careers, those are some important things to consider.
And then at the same time, just to throw this in there, a little off subject, but if you barbers are not claiming what you're making, and you go to get a house and it says you make 10 grand, like you're not going to get a house,
Right.
or at least not get the house that you think you need, or probably more than likely could afford, but because of what you've claimed, people, they don't know what you can afford.
Important again, because again, all those things you get while you're in school, from being able to network and meet different people. Someone should be bringing those things up in school. We bring up stuff like that every time because we have something called Each One Teach One, where we bring in financial advisors, we bring in people from the outside just to talk about it on a different perspective, more than just cutting hair. Because I believe if you go to school and just think about solely in the hair cutting, you're just going to become a cutter. You have to incorporate different things to make that experience worthwhile. You have to incorporate different things to make learning fun. What do you think, Bobby?
Well, if you're gonna get into the barber industry, my biggest thing would be, well, not biggest, but you got to keep in mind you don't have a 401k
Mhm.
or a pension
Yep.
or retirement or
Insurance.
insurance, those kind of things. So I'm sure there's no cookie cutter approach where everybody does theirs the same, but
Right,
I took and invested in real estate and stocks and cryptocurrency and let those be the vehicle of my retirement.
right. And that's an interesting plan, interesting thing, because that's in a sense exactly that's a 401k. So there's strategic ways to have a retirement plan for yourself when you're in this industry. Because most people don't think about it on that level. They think, well, once they're a barber, and I think that's why a lot of parents is like, how are you gonna have retirement? What are you gonna? But those things that's why the podcast. That's what it's for.
You build your retirement through investments.
Right.
You're not going to get wealthy anyways working or saving money. You got to invest money if you want to get wealthy,
Make money while you sleep.
residual income.
So and those things are important too. How I incorporate my school, I try to add those things to every student. Have different conversations about financial literacy. What's next? What's the easiest thing to do when you get to school is the haircutting, but it's hard to relay that to a student who hasn't cut hair yet because they don't know what they don't know, and their main focus is coming in. I just want to be a barber. I just want to be the best barber, which is great, but there's so much more beyond that which you get when you pay your tuition.
It opens up so many doors for you as far as networking. Like, I've been blessed of the network that I built through my barber chair,
Right.
because you get a cross section of America.
I think that's the biggest weapon of a barber is, or any profession where you deal with the public like yourself. Like being able to network is so important because like I don't know where I would be, and I say this wholeheartedly that where if I didn't meet Craig, and that's the truth because I did not go to school. I didn't have a classic barber education, so my knowledge was rather limited. And then sometimes you have the stigmas with the other shops, so you don't really reach out to other shops to speak to people because if you're working with some people, it's like that's competition. So if I didn't reach out and meet Craig and then be invited into a school, I wouldn't know what I know about business. I wouldn't know what I know about health. I wouldn't know what I know about cutting hair in general. Like I was so blessed to meet people. And that's the number one most invaluable thing that you can take from school that you can't pay for it. It's priceless.
Yes. And the key thing is one of the key quotes I've been using the past couple of weeks. Your network is your net worth.
I agree.
Your network is your net worth.
Put it on a shirt.
Yeah, we got something. We got some things. We got
That's on the back of the Crown Cutz Barber Academy.
Your network is your net worth, because it's so interesting. Because all you're doing is sitting in a chair. You go into school. You build relationships. You might come up when you come in that first day. The first person who comes in, you automatically just link yourself with them. Oh, that's my classmate. I'm a graduate with them. I'm a finish with them. I just feel comfortable with that person because we came in together. We're going to form this relationship. We're going to tackle this world, open the shop, open the school. And that's how you should think. Have a broad perspective of things. But when you keep your perspective on just cutting hair, it kind of dims your light to see the possibilities.
Well, you have to have a larger and stronger base from which to operate and become an expert at anything.
Right.
And your foundation, your physical, your emotional, your your monetary, all of that needs to be in place so that you can then focus on your craft and spend time on it.
And it's important because we had a conversation with a student last 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and Amai was so upset. We was trying to get him to think on a different level. Conversations in school help mold you.
Mhm.
And we're trying to. What was the conversation about?
I don't want to bring it up, but I do want to say, that in the conversation, I just I love being around the students, and I love seeing them grow, and I don't want to see anything that could potentially stunt growth,
Right.
and I want them to have every asset available. Like I tell my wife about my son, I was like, if he gets good grades, and he does well and takes his SAT, and he visited schools and still decides that he wants to be a fisherman for the rest of his life, I'm not going to feel bad at all, because I gave him every opportunity to do whatever he wanted. And I would be happy for him that he chose that he wanted to be a fisherman,
Right.
because he had got to explore every opportunity, just like the students at the school. I want them to see every opportunity available. And if they choose that they just want to chill and do their thing at their house, that's fine. But I want to show you the whole world,
Right.
the opportunity. So
the big picture.
exactly.
The big picture.
I don't want, because we all have somewhat narrow mindedness early in life, and everybody reaches at different points, and not necessarily that someone is more advanced at any age than other people, but I feel like that if I can just open their mind just a little bit and see a little more, then I've done my job. But ultimately it's up to the person as an individual. So
Because learning is something that has to be reciprocated to as well. Once you go in a setting where you trying to learn a skill, a trade, you also have to do some research and reciprocate that training to the instructor to show that you're receiving. And the misconception is just sitting there, you're just going to ingest everything and not give nothing out. You're not showing you're developing. You're not showing that you're developing and trying to grow, because, and I can't remember where I read that, and it makes so much sense. Learning is something that has to be reciprocated. You just can't sit, and it makes it boring if you're sitting there and you're not asking questions and you're not participating and you're not seeing the big picture. If someone's just sitting there, and that's old school, where you just blah 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 blah. You have to learn this like this, like this, like this, like that.
The brain,
It kind of I didn't realize it's ADHD, and I just can't learn like that for me. And I consider myself a smart person, but I want to make it as interactive as possible for me to learn, for the students to learn.
That's up to the student, though. You got to be proactive and interactive in your own education. You
Right.
know?
But the misconception is, Bobby, a lot of times they sit there and they come, I'm not learning nothing. I'm not learning nothing, because they wanted to grasp it so quick. And another thing, I remember you saying that, and I add my twist to it, you can't shortcut the process.
Okay.
You have to go through the experience of that 1 month. Lenisa, you have to go through the experience of that 3 months. You have to go through the experience of that 6 months, even that year, then that 2 years, because you learn something different during all those stages. And some people, and not just in our industry, but some people want the gratification so quick, and the hard work that you put in 10 years of doing your industry, someone who comes in within 6 months, I want to be just like Lenisa. And they don't understand how unrealistic and unfair that is to you.
Right.
You want my 10 years of experience of everything I've done for you to pick it up in like a month?
I would just think about how overwhelmed I would be, like, just like I was when I first started barbering, be overwhelmed like with what you do. Like if you just threw me into what you do, like I would just be so overwhelmed. I was just thinking about like all the stuff that goes into your job. I'm like, I can't even imagine half of it. And then as long as you've been cutting hair, like I can only imagine the different stuff that you could do that I can't do. When I went to the island, when I went to Outer Banks, I visited the bar. There's one barber on the island, and the dude been cutting hair for 55 years.
Wow.
And I was like, and he was in great shape. He was like well into his like mid 80s. And I was like, man, there's just I wish I could be here and watch him just to learn.
Right.
He might not be doing the blurriest fade, but I can only imagine stuff I can learn from him.
But it's more than just the haircut though. Because I'm pretty sure, go ahead.
There's wisdom there too.
Exactly.
Wow.
There is,
to be able to be successful with that kind of continuity, it's unbelievable.
Knowing the business module, understanding what's the business module? About 3 years, and after 5 years, if you're still in business, you're doing something good, it's going to be sustainable. Somewhere around that line. If you're in business for your first 3 years,
most businesses fail within 3 years.
Right. And then in 5 years, you're onto something.
I'm just getting into statistics.
You're just going to have some longevity. But trying to be there and saying in a month. I mean, I hear it all the time, and I have to like speak students off the ledge all the time.
Don't do it.
I mean, in a month. I mean, and
You're gonna learn most when you get in the shop after school. That's when you learn your most, getting your reps in the shop.
but a lot of them don't understand that. And what kind of even pushed me even more off the cliff, I'm like, why would you want to turn down haircuts while you're in school? Why wouldn't you want to sharpen your
You're not
skin?
investing. You're not investing.
But that happens all the time.
You're gonna get out of it what you put in it. I mean,
And some students think like, well, I'm good now. I don't need to cut no more. I'm like, you haven't even been in the shop yet. Keep honing that skill because you didn't come to school to sharpen pencils.
I mean, the wannabes and the bees and the wannabes. That's what separates it right there.
The bees and the wannabes.
Yeah.
That's a shirt too.
Yeah.
I like that
The
one.
bees and the wannabes. I mean, it makes sense. But how do you change that narrative? And that's why I say it applies to any discipline.
I think it's. I mean, just the bees and the wannabes. I like that. I mean, and then this. I just think that it's just you can't put a want. You can't make somebody do anything.
No.
They have to want to do it. So the bees and the wannabes. I think that's an accurate way to sum it up. If you sitting there right now and you thinking about, hey, you know, I don't know if I want to do this, and you're not going to do it. You got to want to do it. You got to want to do it.
There's the 21-90 rule that they say it takes 21 repetitions of something for it to become a habit, but it takes 90 for it to become a lifestyle.
Okay.
For you to actually internalize it to the point where it becomes second nature. And I cannot imagine having to cut someone's hair whenever my focus is elsewhere. And the only way that they're going to be able to do that is if they've already done it those 90 times.
Mhm.
They've internalized it to the point where when they have that chatty Cathy in their chair, or whenever there is something seriously wrong going on in their life outside of barbering, and they need to still be able to get a really good cut done, the only way they're going to be able to do that is if it's become that 90-day lifestyle for
Right.
them. So they've got to get their practice in school. You can't charge somebody for a non-student haircut if you're doing a student haircut.
You're right.
I would assume.
I mean, no, it's not assume. You hit it on the nose because everything you're saying, Bobby's like, yeah, because he's been in the industry long enough. And I'm like, yeah. Amri's like, of course, because everybody expect to grasp it. Like, and I spoke to one student one day. He told me, Craig, I follow this one student. He's out of school, and my haircuts are just not looking like his. I'm like, hey, he's been out of school for 2 years. You've been in school for 3 months. You took some time off. You took you on your second leave of absence. How you expect your haircut to be just as good as his?
You just got to put the time in. You got to work. You got to get the repetitions.
And that 21-90 rule, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, I'm just doing the math in my head because I'm thinking about the students because like that first month they don't do any cutting, so that makes them disheartened at first too. And you say you got the first month you're pulling people off the ledge, and then they first start cutting hair, and there's that insecurity, and then they get that 3 months of just if they go to school and apply themselves, they get that 3 months of cutting in. Then you really see the difference in their attitude and their work at that point. So I don't know, man. Y'all getting down to the numbers, man.
But you should, because that's what the podcast is about, to let students know that, hey, there's a learning curve. It's okay. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to learn something and grind it out to be better at it. That's what it's about. Nobody came out the womb walking.
I could already cut when I went to school.
Right.
African American hair, but I couldn't cut straight hair.
Right.
So I never cut African American hair in school because I could already do it. I focused on my weakness, which really became a strength in urban barbershops because I can cut straight hair where a lot of barbers can't.
And that's the misconception. You want to go not as a black barber, not as a white barber. You want to go in as a master barber.
Where you can cut every kind of style, color, hair.
And for that time, for that skill, it takes time. It takes time. It takes some repetition. It takes some practice. Because there's so much more that you need to learn. the most important part of the haircut or any service is the consultation, how you greet people,
Right.
how people perceive you when they first meet you, if they're going to do business with you. If you can cut hair and
You only got 9 months at school,
right,
and that's going to fly by.
Wow.
You'll be ready to graduate, and if you didn't take advantage of the time you was there, it's too late now.
you starting backwards
Yeah.
because
So
you get out of school, you're in the shop. People are not forgiving.
you only got to do it once. Oh no, they're not forgiving in the shop. It is. It's tough.
I mean, but just like your feeling, Nisa, you know what I mean? When you started and someone comes up to you, you greet them with a smile, say, "Hey, how you doing?" You get to know them, get that feel for them. That's a consultation. That's the introduction. If you come off rough around the edge, and not being able to meet their needs and be tentative to them, they'll instantly know that in the interaction, and then it's a rough start,
Right.
and that's a potential
Absolutely.
client that you're gonna lose or not,
Right.
maybe not able to service. So this applies in almost everything in life, but specifically when you're trying to gain and build clientele long term. And other things that you learn in the school setting too is how to build
I want to
clients.
add on to that. For every person that you turn away or your client that you lose, you're losing about $15,000 a year
Wow.
from one.
Mm.
If they get a $30 service every week,
Mhm.
that comes up to about $15,000 a year. So if you do that 2 or 3 times, you're starting to affect your bottom line.
And those are things that you don't think about if you just focus just solely on that. I didn't think of it on that perspective. What do you think, Am I?
I mean, that's crazy to think about. I mean, honestly, like you really should focus
And I
on.
said 15,000. I meant 1,500. I'm sorry.
No, you good. You
1,500.
really should focus on your clientele, and building your clientele is very important, and not to turn anyone away. Not that you would turn people away, but you start to learn your customer, that when as you go along, and you know your target and who you want, and at the price point. So you need everybody. You take everybody you can when you first start. Don't turn anybody away or any service, because you might end up liking a service, doing this service more than you like doing that service. But you thought before that you'd rather be doing skin fades all day. And I'm here to tell you, doing skin fades all day is not awesome. It gets kind of boring. And so, I mean, never turn anybody away. Continue to build your clientele.
But you learn how to do that in school.
Exactly.
You learn how to hone your skill and build to the point where when you get there, if wherever shop you go into, wherever setting you go into, the barbers in the shop are not stopping consistently to be like, "Hey, tighten up." I mean, they understand your skill is going to take some time to get up to par, but the understanding how to get from point A to point B, that should be a no-brainer. But to refine point A to point B is the months, the years, the hours put into the shop.
Yeah, but you can hone all of that. I mean, if you can build relationships and talk to people, and you're good at what you do, you don't even have to worry about the money. It's going to come. The people will find you.
Right. And I think that's what it is most.
I've done it with no social media ever.
Right.
Ever. No podcast ever.
Right. But the relationship and having to talk and build that's something that's.
I've had to do it that way, the
Right.
old timey way, I guess, of just meeting somebody
and focusing. But the relationship that you have built too helped that as well.
Yeah, it's made me better all around.
Right.
I think that way is way more productive than Instagram, or getting a bunch of few just people throwing you likes ain't putting money in your pocket. I mean, if you get a sponsorship, you do, but people just saying, "Hey, I like that," that's not going to get you paid. It's the building a relationship. It's the people and hearsay. Excuse me, I'm sorry, but hearsay, not hearsay, but dealing with customers and face value, handing out business cards is way more better for your business than just putting pictures on Instagram. And that's one thing Chris Basio said. You just wasting content. You should be meeting people, introducing yourself, and they'll tell people, and those people tell people, and that's how you really build a clientele.
And people forget that relationship right there is, and I hate going back to you, Bobby, and just throwing. Bobby tells me all the time, "Craig, somebody stopped by the barbershop looking for you."
Every day almost.
Yeah, he said the same thing you say, man.
What do you say? You want me to say? I ain't gonna say it. Man.
Getting
I'm not gonna
politics.
say it.
The mayor.
I wasn't gonna put it in the air.
Mayor Charles.
No, I just try to crack with him. I don't try to put it. I'm just messing with him.
Craig's really good at building relationships and being good to people.
I mean, but
Networking.
your network is your net worth. And you can't underestimate that, your network. People that you meet every day, just a hand to hand, just being able to listen to them, active listening, positive communication in those times, that helps build your net worth. Because once that is built up, you know an electrician, you know a plumber.
Absolutely.
You know
a
a lawyer,
lawyer, a dentist,
you
a
know
doctor.
dentist, you know a mortgage person, you know someone who's dealing real estate,
a pastor.
a pastor. You know what I mean? So just building that network is so important, and then you start that right in the classroom, right in the schools with your friends and your peers, because students are gonna coming from all over the country, all over the region, and when they spread out, it's up to you to build that relationship and hold that connection with them. And those things right there, like what was it last week? I went into the school and I brought all the estheticians out, and I made sure that they introduced themselves to all the barbers and the cosmetologists, because I was like, "Do you know anybody's name out there?" It's like, "No." I was like, "You go to school and you don't know nobody's name in there."
I be putting them on the spots because
Yeah.
some students don't want to meet people.
Yeah.
So I call two of the cosmetologists. They're like, I don't want to talk to my. There's a new cosmetologist there. Like, I don't want to talk to her. I want to talk. I was like, that's fine. Don't worry about it. I was like, y'all ain't got to talk to her. The girl walked by. I was like, hey, y'all met so and so. Make them talk to her.
But that's the beginning of building. That's the beginning of building relationships that will last forever, last for a lifetime.
Yep, I think relationships are important.
So, Lanisa, coming from the outside looking in, someone who's listening to this podcast in Scandinavia, they probably have no perception that you wasn't the barber when you came in, because a lot of the stuff that you've been saying have been right on cue. Why do you think that is?
I just think that doing business with individuals, with people,
Right.
you're doing business with people, whether it's selling money like I do or selling image,
Right.
like y'all do. It's networking is super important within the industry and outside of the industry. Don't burn bridges.
Oh,
because you never know. The person you throw, what is it they say, the person you throw under the bus today might be the one driving it tomorrow. And again, going back to the networking within the industry, I've been doing this mortgages for 21 years. I have seen just about every kind of situation that you can imagine and have probably successfully been able to work through it. But there may be a situation that comes across my desk 2 days from now that I don't exactly know how to fix, but I remember somebody talking about it.
right.
And I can pick up the phone and call that person and ask them, how was it that you dealt with that? That's the difference between me and somebody who's been doing it for 2 months is
Right.
I have a lot of my own knowledge and I also have additional connections to be able to fix the problem. Same thing with y'all. Whenever somebody walks in and they have an unusual situation going on, and if you don't talk to anybody else in the school, you don't talk to any of your colleagues once you get out of school, you don't have all of that access to information.
Right.
I feel like you've been in that situation. I can see what you were just like. You just switched your hairstylist was like.
And they do, because I remember when you said that, Bobby, the first time you said that, you was like, you can't shortcut 2 years in the industry.
You can't.
You can't shortcut
But
3
don't
years.
run from it. Embrace it.
Right.
Embrace it. It's going to get greater later.
Right.
It's going to get greater later. And I know we keep circling back to network, but even when you start investing, that's going to be monumental.
Right.
Your network.
Is your network.
Yeah, if you trying to get things done, you got to have a good network, because he may say no, she may say no. You may know a different way than they know to get a loan through, or have different access to different tools.
Right.
And it becomes important, and it's helped a lot.
Oh, of course.
And I think this podcast is so awesome, because just to hear the word investment so many times, because right now everybody's like, invest in this, blah, 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 crypto, all this stuff, not that they're not beneficial, but to hear the word invest in this sense, all it would take is your time. you're going to make the money back. You're going to make it tenfold. I mean, and you can't even add it up. I mean, infinitely how much you're going to make back from it. So, and just invest this time and see what your return is, and it's going to be a lot faster than anything that you can put into right now. It's almost like you got into Amazon early. I mean, for real.
Well, people for so long have kind of, when you hear a trade, it almost seems like you're on the back burner of relevancy. And it's not a fanciness about it. But the people who are in the trade, who work in the trade, understand, man, I put 3 or 4 or 5, 6 kids through college. I have bought this home and it's paid for and it's done. And yeah, you're the doctor. Yeah, you're a lawyer, but $350,000 in debt to pay back. How long is it going to take you to pay that back? You know what I mean? So those things that parents have to start thinking about too, as well, when they pushing their kids to school or some type of discipline, because a lot of times you feel sorry for yourself and you want to make sure that your kid understands that you give them opportunity. But then, and I'm not discrediting college because I went to college. I love college. I think everyone should have an opportunity if they want to. But some kids go to school and then they quit, and then that $20,000-$30,000 is on your budget that you got to pay back.
But it just goes back. It goes back to when we were talking about the hamster wheel. You taught to go to school, graduate, go to college, run up student loan debt, get married, buy a house, and spend the rest of your life paying off one house. But that's not how you build wealth. That's not how money works.
Right. And all of those things that you have to start thinking about, because, again, your network is your net worth. And you can build a great network while you're in school.
I'm thinking about the hamster wheel because, and what you said about the trades and people discrediting it seemed like everybody rushed to be technical. We had to be technologically advanced. Everybody had to run and we got to learn how to do stuff with computers. And you got a guy, he learned how to build a house on a computer down to the plumbing and electricity. And he got done with it. He's like, man, it's so great. He's like, who's gonna build this house? You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, I can draw it, but who's gonna build a house? Like, tradespeople now are so valuable, and even to the point that the president's ready to get rid of all these licenses. He's like, oh, you know what? You don't even need it. Just go. We'll get good out of it. Just go. Go do stuff. So.
Because I read an article, and I probably mentioned it before in this podcast, about I think it was in the New York Times, where they were talking about going to law school. How a lot of students rack up, I think, $270,000, $330,000 worth of debt.
I've seen it.
Word.
In law school, and then you come out of law school, and a lot of lawyers not getting jobs. And
so think about that though. If you rack up all that student loan debt and you go into debt and you specialize like a lawyer, he goes to the Christmas party, has too many glasses of wine, gets stopped by the police. Now, all those years, all that debt is washed away. That can all be taken away from you because of one night, one accident, one anything.
You're definitely invested in it, and like you're all in when it comes to that, and that's why sometimes people
take
get
it from us.
That's true.
As a barber, and then even if I have too many glasses of wine, you can't take barbering from me.
Right.
You might be doing with a razor blade and a comb, but you're gonna be cutting hair.
But I'm coming
you
home.
You can be cutting hair. You're right. You can be making money though.
Right.
But they'll take you when you specialize. They'll take all that away from you.
Yeah.
I
didn't think of it in that.
I think that's a big difference in what I do versus what a doctor does.
And we're not discrediting what.
No,
we're not discrediting lawyers. We're not discrediting nobody in the industry. It's just
I'm just putting the information out there, and you decide.
Do some research and find out what works for you.
Trust me, but verify.
Yeah, but just to segue more on that point, starting out when the lawyers get out, their salaries are like about 64 grand starting out. Because unless you go to a major law firm, and when you go to a major law firm, you have that curve. And there's so many of them out there, they want you to come in just doing some paperwork at first. Just like that.
Paralegal.
Yeah, you can't shortcut that 2 years, 3 years of being in a law firm. So you come in, they start you at the bottom, and starting at the bottom might be 60 grand.
And sometimes you're dealing with a heavier caseload just to make up with all that. You're doing a whole lot of work in a lot of time.
And 60 grand, and then that 300 is right down back of your neck waiting for you to pay back. But in our industry, I don't know how much it is to go to school for a loan. Is that you have to go to college, or you can just go to real estate school? How does that come about?
Online
Okay.
courses or community colleges, some of them have.
Okay.
And then you have to go through, background checks, fingerprinting.
They
And
talk about
financial
return on
checks, that kind
investment
of
right
stuff.
there. Yeah.
But,
And is that
it's
like a
really-
year program, or 6 months?
Oh no, it's hours.
what's the program?
but that's the trade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being successful at it.
No, of course, yeah. You're
You have to
professional.
invest
It's
some time.
obvious, yeah.
You have to invest that time. You can't shortcut that time, and that's what we're talking about. Wow, that's important.
Yeah.
That's valuable.
For sure.
I think the money mentor you had on a couple of weeks back, one of the
Mhm.
first things that he said was you need to be able to invest, and one of the first things he said was to invest in real estate.
Right.
Because whenever you then go to start, you've finished school, you're ready to start your business, and you need to be able to borrow money. One of the things they're going to look at is how do we know you're going to pay it back? And
Right.
if you have real estate that they can attach, it helps you get your small business funds or anything like that.
You have a record of showing
You
that
come out
you're
of college with $300,000 worth of student loan debt, you cannot qualify for a home loan. I mean, you can, but your income would have to be huge.
But what's crazy to
out
me
the
is
block to qualify.
Well,
for it.
let's not even put it that extreme. What about $70,000,
$70,000.
$60,000?
You have to count, even if you are in a deferred student loan, the payment is completely deferred.
Mhm.
I still have to count $350 a month in payments
Right.
against a $70,000 loan.
oh
Right.
wow.
$350 a month in payments can change how much of a home you can borrow by
Mhm.
about $70,000.
Wow.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of qualifying to buy a $50,000 house, you can qualify for a $120,000 house,
Right.
or a $200,000 house versus a $130,000 house. Huge difference, or no house at all.
I have a weird question. Why is rent not calculated in your credit score? Say if you pay rent with a tenant for a certain amount of time, why is that not calculated into a credit score? Just throwing that out there. It's a weird question because I feel like
I think
people.
it can be if they take you to court and you don't pay.
That's what I'm saying. But wouldn't that make sense? Like you have a documented. I'm sorry, just throw that out
No,
there.
that's a good question.
You have
I
a
don't know how to answer
documented
that
source
question.
of. That's what I was asking. You have a documented source of paid rent. Why is that not acute?
Most of the credit scoring systems most landlords do not report to one of the 3 nationally accredited credit score repositories. They aren't required to. There are some new credit scoring systems now where you can add things that are more private like that, utilities, etc., and have those added into your score, or they can be used as alternate for something like a single mortgage loan underwrite. But that's getting really technical. I don't know.
I'm sorry. I've been carrying this question around with me for a while, and I just felt the need to ask you.
Generally national.
I mean, but that's a good question to ask and know, because, like you were saying, to get your retirement plan, investing is one way that we have to start thinking about.
I haven't been able to think any other ways. I just really encourage barbers to make relationships with people that are in that real estate industry.
Mhm.
I mean, I also do crypto and it does okay, y'all. But I know real estate's gonna be here in 20 years. No matter, it's gonna be here. You know, whether Bitcoin is or not, doesn't matter. But real estate's gonna be here.
Well, the 3 keys that I've always read to acquiring wealth are just putting yourself in a different situation, because information changes situation, and real estate, investing, and entrepreneurship. Those are 3 surefire ways that I've read, unless you get inheritance or somebody just drop a coin on your head. And say,
That's where everybody waiting on somebody just pull up in the truck and just start. Here's this bag.
real estate, investing, and entrepreneurship. So those 3 areas I think barbers should always start thinking about, and start building that. Start thinking about the first day you walk into a setting to learn the trade. You don't have to learn it all at once, but start putting feelers out there, seeing who's in the classroom with you. Hey, simple conversation. Hey, my name is Craig. I want to be a great barber. Where are you from? What do you do? what kind of skills you have, and just build that relationship slowly and acquire that. Because someone else's knowledge, when you get to know them and be friends with them, build a relationship, that could be your knowledge.
That's your money.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no haircuts I have to turn down. I can do every single one of them.
And that's how it should be.
But there were so many times that it was hard while I was doing it.
Right.
You know, but you got to get those 90.
Yeah.
You got to get them.
And speak on that 90 again. I don't think, for people who haven't been listening, speak on that 2190 again.
He said that it takes 21 days or 21 repetitions of something for it to become a habit.
Mm-hmm.
It takes 90 days for it to become a lifestyle,
right?
A part of you, ingrained in what it is that you do.
Yep. Like Bruce Lee said, he'd rather practice one kick 1,000 times than practice 1,000 different kicks.
There you go.
Put that work in. So what did you guys think about? Anything else we want to add to it? Because there's so much we can add to this that you get from school. There's so much more. Anything that you can think about?
I'm just thinking about, all the information we gave you just simply, based on just networking in general. Like, there's just so many different. We could sit here and talk to you all day about one particular subject that you get from school, but it's infinite what you can get,
right?
And how you can get it if you just invest your time, and invest yourself, and go to school tomorrow. Because you probably listen to this podcast and you should go to school. You should go to school tomorrow. Go to school today.
Show up. Be attentive. Be coachable. Don't be a distraction, because there are people who want to learn.
Be consistent. An inconsistent barber makes inconsistent money.
Oh, fire. That's the earn the crown right there. Go ahead, Lisa.
That's true in all industries. I think that's a good one.
Yep.
I like it. Yeah. It's, take advantage. Just take advantage. You're investing your time and your money. You create the return on investment by taking advantage in every way that you can. Think globally. Think above more than just what the instructor's talking to you about right now. Think about where else you can go, who else you can get to know,
how you can grow.
Learn. Yeah.
This was a plethora of just gems. Just earn the crown today.
Amen.
School is not just about the subject and the information that they're downloading into you right at the moment. It's about so much more.
Yes, I agree. And so that's why we try to add different things into the curriculum. We try to teach students. We do cornhole, and we play a game and teach them how to study during cornhole. We bring out the Jenga,
yeah,
the real colossal Jenga, and have students. We sit in a circle in the barber chairs, and we ask questions and we pull those out. We do Jeopardy. We incorporate so many different things to kind of make it fun and interesting, because what you're doing, you're building relationships and you're asking questions and you get to know your classmates. And one of the interesting things why I incorporate those things is just to make learning fun, because I remember when learning was fun for me, I was invested in it. When learning was fun for me, I paid more attention. When learning was fun for me, I built more relationships. And when you actively doing activities in the classroom, working with your hands, working with another student, that's the inception of building a relationship, because a conversation might come up from there. We also do one thing called question and answers, where every student someone has to start it off, where you'll ask a question, and to any question. Barbering particularly, you ask a question to a particular student, they will answer the question, and then they have to go around the room and ask someone else a question. And with that in itself, so many questions come off of that. And then you get to know the particular students. You get to know the industry well. You get to know about things that you're thinking about. You think you're the only one having a problem with this, but there's someone else who's like, man, Bobby, you hit that on the nose. Yeah, man, I can't. It took me forever to learn how to do a lineup, but I'm afraid to ask someone because I think I'm the only one who don't know how to do a lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Remember that day we had the first one we did MI in Bristol?
Where we spoke with the students in the circle.
Yeah. How positive the energy was.
I liked it, and it's a good change of pace for students too, because you got that daily grind that you feel like you're going through, and then somebody comes in, like, hey, let's have a conversation. And we even try to include some of the clients that was there too. They were listening as well. So,
because our industry, we care about it so much. We want people to understand that, hey, this is more than just a job. This is a career. There's longevity in this.
If you're prepared.
There is so much that you can grow and learn from this if you take advantage of it. And it starts from that first day. Make your first like your last, and make your last like your first, and make that your everything. Make your first day like the last day you were in there, and make your last day like your first day when you came, when you felt like you was an intern, when you was nervous and you were scared. You should have that same feeling on your last day, because you're invested. It shows that you're invested. You want to give back. You want to engulf and learn as much as you can, because the learning just don't stop when you're in school. The learning is continual. Like you said, continuing education, it's continual. In almost every industry, there's a learning curve, and there's a continuing education to stay on top, because as the world turns, not the story, as the world turns, as the world turns, new trends come in all the time. That should be my grandmother's favorite show, As the World Turns. That's like, watch it with and be like, man, we got one TV. We got one TV. I might as well. I'm gonna watch something. You gotta watch it. I don't know if you've seen that, Bobby, but
The daytime soap opera.
yeah.
My grandmother used to kick us out. All right, y'all done with the TV. It's my turn. Get out. Watch some Days of Our Lives.
Yeah, so all good things must come to an end. So this was a great podcast. What do you think about the podcast, Elisa?
I enjoyed it. Thanks so much for inviting me over.
What you pick up from it, from not being a barber? What did you pick up from it?
I think that it has hit me as it did you. The similarities across, regardless of industry,
Right.
of business. I've definitely picked up some extra passion points over here. So thank you. Extra motivated to go out there and learn and share and network a little better than I have. So it's been great. Thanks so much.
Appreciate that. Bobby, what you think about the podcast? Your first one and coming on here. But first off, before, I know you have reservations, like, man, what's Craig getting ready to put me into? What's going on? I don't know. I got to do this, I got to do that.
I don't want to do no social media.
I felt that when he said the social media. I was like, okay, he's bucking it.
I guess I would really just say build your rental portfolio. Build it as hard and fast as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here to help with that.
Yeah. So what do you like about the podcast? What did you expect?
It was informative. I felt good about it. I like sharing those ideas. I hope there's a few people out there that get something from it, that are able to take advantage of it, or maybe some of the things that they said put things in perspective for them.
Well, the thing is, someone usually always sends me a message after the podcast. One message that we got on YouTube a couple of weeks ago, we haven't gotten around to it yet, is what's the question asked on YouTube?
Oh, about the booking sites.
About the booking site. So we'll get to you pretty soon. We're still working on that. We're gonna decipher which booking site works best for individuals and what works best for you as a barber, your company. Someone, I can't remember where the question was from, but we try to answer each question in an appropriate time, and once we do the research, so we can have something solid for you. Keep the questions coming. We really appreciate you guys. Shout out to Lathan again for doing his magic. Again, Barber College Success, brought to you by Craig Charles of Crown Cutz Academy, Crown Cutz Academy Bristol, Craig's Crown Cutz downtown. Your lasting words, MI?
Just go be great.
Lanisa?
My national mortgage licensing number is 264-637. You can reach me by phone at 423-218-1166.
And you do stuff for a country across the world?
I'm licensed currently in the states of Tennessee, Indiana, Ohio, and Virginia.
Yeah, we have listeners in all those states, so a good thing. Lasting words, Mr. B.
Invest.
And also come holler at you for a haircut. What's your schedule?
111 Spring Street.
You got a phone
Johnson
number?
City, Tennessee.
You got a phone number out there?
865-292-1781.
Instagram.
None of that.
But again, this was a great podcast. Again, thank you guys for coming. This was wonderful. We always have a good time in mind.
We had a great time.
Always have a good time. It's fun. Most people always say they get nervous on the podcast. And once they realize you're just sitting in the living room having a conversation, and giving information. That's the fun part about it. It's no stress, no pressure. Most people think there's a big audience and people looking at them, and people are looking at you because it is live on Facebook. It's on YouTube. We have some. It's out there in the universe. So what's being said won't be held against you. It's just information for the masses, and we appreciate you.